Alrighty, I wanted to talk about my January reading wrap up. So I read a total of 15 books. One of them is a novella that's at the back of one of the books that I read, so I will make sure to mention that. So one of the books I read is Do Not Disturb by Freida McFadden. This follows Quinn Alexander, who unalived her abusive husband and is trying to escape, and happens to get snowed into a hotel and wondering if she's going to survive the night. 100% agree that this is one of Freida McFadden's underrated books. There is a midway twist that I did not see coming whatsoever, so I highly recommend reading this one by Freida. This is not going to come as a surprise, but of course the Empyrean series, 100% recommend. I read one per weekend for the past 3 weekends, and this was definitely an adventure of a lifetime, as I have said before. The first book is Fourth Wing, which follows Violet Sorrengail. Her mother, since she has the last name Sorrengail, her mother kind of forces her to become a writer. Nobody thought she would get through it, and she proves them all wrong. And of course, there's a lot more to the story than just that. Iron Flame is the second book, and then Onyx Storm is the third. So I highly recommend reading Fourth Wing, and then you'll be hooked. Rebecca Yarros puts crack in her books, I'm pretty sure. And next up is Cross My Heart, and this one is definitely, most definitely, aside from the 2 series I read, my absolute favorite standalone novel that I've read this month. I was already looking forward to it because Megan Collins is like one of my absolute favorite authors. So this one was very exciting to read for me. So this one follows Rosie, who had a heart transplant and finds out that it's from the deceased wife of a popular author named Morgan. So when she develops this crush on him and starts messaging him through Donor Connect, which is supposed to be anonymous. And a lot more is unraveled in this book. Highly recommend this. The Perfect Son by Freida McFadden. So this one follows Erica, who has 2 kids, Hannah and Liam. And Liam was the last one to see this young girl that went to their school alive. So it's starting to be suspected that he was involved with the girl that's missing. And I will say with this one, I ended up kind of figuring out the twist. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Not really one of my favorites, but it was still a good read. It still keeps you on your toes. However, like I said, I figured out the twist. I saw it coming. A Sorceress Comes the Call by T. Kingfisher follows Cordelia, who is the daughter of an evil sorceress named Evangeline. Or Evangeline, tomato. And they end up finding this family because her mom is super obsessed with wanting to marry rich. So she finds a man who is interested in her, and Cordelia has to struggle with, okay, do I save this family's life or do I follow my mom? It is a very beautifully, poetically written book. Such a wonderful book. If we're looking into fantasy, like if I was going to choose which adventure I would prefer to read over, I would choose Fourth Wing. I feel like it was really good, and there's some moments where you're like, oh, okay. Overall, though, kind of boring. Would I recommend it to people? Maybe. It's not a bad book.
I just wanted to punch the mess out of the mom.
The style of writing is phenomenal. I just found it a little boring. Brain Damage by Freida McFadden.
I apologize. I completely forgot to go over the summary of Brain Damage by Freida McFadden. It follows a dermatologist who ended up getting shot in the head and is recovering in the hospital. So it flashes back from leading up to the incident and how she's healing in the hospital. And also you find out how did this happen, who did it kind of situation. Very, very interesting. Very interesting.
I honestly feel like this is one of her most well-written books. I don't really know what else to say other than this is really, really well written. Twist I saw coming. However, I say go for it. If you want to read it, definitely go for it. I felt like this had a really good ending for a Freida McFadden book. I really liked the ending of this book a lot. Very knowledgeable. It definitely shows her knowledge with the neurology department. Priest by Sierra Simone. I had been eyeballing this book. Okay, I was curious about it. I did not grow up Catholic. However, I was basically born into the IFB cult. If you know, you know. I may have a video or 2 on my page somewhere regarding that. I completely understood the writing involving the guilt. Even what I grew up in, the guilt, the way they made everything a sin, it was so easy to feel immense guilt and thinking like, you're never going to be accepted by the higher power you believe in and everything. I knew what I was getting into in a way. This was actually the book club pick for me and my besties this month. My good friend picked this out. So we were all like, okay, what are we jumping into? I couldn't really get into the story. I finished it today. The way the writer wrote about the guilt that Tyler Bell felt. And by the way, this follows Tyler Bell. He is a priest. He's Catholic. And he ends up falling in love with a woman who came to the confessional. They start having a very erotic love affair. There is a lot of smut in this. I feel like if it was one of those stories where it was more focused on the love, like them being forbidden of, you know, coming together as one, it was more focused on them, the forbidden stuff with that, and them actually falling in love and then finally getting together in that way, maybe I would have resonated with it more. There was just way too much smut for my liking. I can read it in small doses, like Fourth Wing, yes, because there's a lot more to the story than just the lovemaking, right? This was all lust. I felt like this book was more lust than actual love. Like I said, I should have known what I was getting into when I read it. She's a very good writer. Like, the way she writes is phenomenal. Like, really well written, very talented. And if you're someone who prefers the lust over the love, go for it. However, I wanted to like it. I really did. But this was definitely not my favorite, unfortunately. One by One by Freida McFadden. This one follows Claire, and her husband Noah are having a rocky relationship, and them two and two other couples they're trying to go on a luxury vacation for a week, and unfortunately the van breaks down in the middle of the wilderness and people end up unalive one by one. I will say the twist, I somewhat saw it coming, but somewhat didn't see it coming. This will keep you on your toes. Favorite Freida read of this month was definitely Do Not Disturb. This was my favorite Freida read of the month. Otherwise, the other ones, maybe I would recommend them. However, I'm trying to finish Freida McFadden's backlist because that's like my goal, because I want to rank all her books. Of course, I've started The Crash. Last but not least, like I said, the novella 12 is at the end of Bad Blood. So I have read all 5, so 4 books and 1 novella of this series. Highly recommend the Natural series. I will never shut up about the Natural series. It was definitely one of my favorite series to read. So this and the Empyrean series are the top 2 series I've read in a long time. This follows a group of kids in their late teens that have special skills to help the FBI solve cold cases. There we go. That was my January reading wrap up. I cannot wait to see how many books I can get done in February. I'm mostly going to try my best to focus on romance in February since it is the month of love. I'm hoping I will finally get to the Twisted Love series, Magnolia Park series, and maybe even the Chestnut Spring series as well. There you go. I hope you enjoyed the video.